A great man once said, "The greatest glory in living lies not in never falling, but in rising every time we fall." Hi, I'm Andrew Gonzales, and today I'm going to be speaking to you about this great man who goes by the name of Nelson Mandela. I will talk to you about his lifelong struggle to bring equality to his country of South Africa. Through courage and perseverance, Mandela fought against a discriminating apartheid system and sought a better future for his people and his country. With the use of the internet, I have come across many factual and credible sources from which I have researched and collected information for this topic. From the data I've gathered, I hope to provide you with some insightful and interesting information. To get a better understanding of the situation in South Africa, it is important to know about the apartheid system, Nelson Mandela's life, and the change he helped cause. First off, it is important to understand what Mandela was fighting against, which was the apartheid system. Apartheid was a social and political policy of racial segregation and discrimination enforced by white minority governments in South Africa from 1948 to 1999. The social custom of apartheid was systemized under law in 1948, but traces its roots back to the 1800s when the British first came to power. The goal behind this system was to keep races apart and suppress non-white races to establish white dominance. The apartheid system was implemented by the white-controlled National Party, and their first policy was the Population Registration Act of 1950. This act put all South Africans into 4 racial categories: blacks, coloreds, or people of mixed races, Asians, and whites. This was just the beginning of a series of unequal and discriminating laws that put non-white races down and enforced white dominance. The Group Areas Act of 1950 assigned races to different residential and business sections in urban areas, while the Land Acts of 1954 and 55 restricted non-white residents to specific areas. According to AfricanaEncyclopedia.com, these laws restricted the already limited right of black Africans to own land, entrenching the white minority's control of over 80% of South African land. Everything you can imagine was segregated, from public facilities to education to medical care. To make matters worse, for an already sad and bleak society, were the Bantu Acts. AfricanaEncyclopedia.com says these acts were established to create 10 African homelands administered by what were supposed to be re-established tribal organizations. The acts made every black South African a citizen of one of these homelands, effectively excluding South Africans from politics. Most of the homelands lacked both natural resources and autonomy of independent states. It is easy to see why there would be much resistance to the white government and its policies. But the government banned and suppressed all opposition to the apartheid system. Violence was widespread throughout the country, and many people were killed or wrongfully imprisoned. The situation seemed hopeless, and change looked like it was nowhere in sight. But there was one man who never gave up, and his name was Nelson Mandela. Rolihlahla Mandela was born on July 18, 1918, in Transkei, South Africa. His name means pulling the branch of a tree, or troublemaker, which is a very fitting name for him. At a young age, Mandela dreamed of doing something for his people, so he left home to make something of himself. He received his primary education at a local mission school and was given the name Nelson. Mandela was very bright and kept going to school up until 1948. At the University College of Fort Hare, he met lifelong friend Oliver Tambo. He entered the political scene in 1943 when he joined the African National Congress. In 1948, the National Party gained power and started implementing its apartheid policies. It was when this happened that Mandela became actively involved in politics, as he was strongly opposed to this new system. In 1952, he and Oliver Tambo opened their own law firm, providing free or low-cost legal counsel to many blacks who lacked attorney representation. From this time on, Mandela gained popularity and emerged as a leader within the African National Congress. Nelson's main goal was to end apartheid but right behind that was unity among Africans. He believed that they should band together and work as one. If they worked together, they could end this regime. Mandela was strongly influenced by Gandhi and was committed to nonviolent resistance. But after no progress and being censored and arrested many times, Mandela gave in to using violence. He saw this as a last resort as he so badly dreamed of an equal and democratic South Africa. Up until 1962, Mandela was campaigning underground for change in South Africa. That year he was arrested and in 1963 went to trial for sabotage and treason. According to NelsonMandela.org, Mandela was found guilty and sentenced to life imprisonment on June 12, 1964. Nelson Mandela spent the next 7 years in prison, but he never lost sight of a better South Africa. He never compromised his beliefs and believed that one day he would see change. In 1989, Frederick William de Klerk became president, and the change Mandela wanted was on the horizon. When 1990 came along, Nelson Mandela was still in prison, but it seemed like the winds were about to change directions. In February of 1990, at the age of 72, Mandela was finally released from prison. The South African government had been pressured by the international community for years to reform, and upon his release, he urged for that pressure not to stop. Mandela wanted to work through everything peacefully, but declared that the African National Congress would not lay down arms until something was done. From information gathered on biography.com, Mandela was elected president of the African National Congress in 1991. Mandela continued to negotiate with President de Klerk towards the country's first multiracial elections. It was an intense time with everyone on edge, but in the end, negotiations prevailed. April 27, 1994 became a historic day as South Africa held its first democratic elections. Following this, on May 10, 1994, Nelson Mandela was inaugurated as South Africa's first black president. The previous year, Mandela and de Klerk were awarded the Nobel Peace Prize for their work towards dismantling apartheid. Nelson Mandela served as president from 1994 to 1999, where he tried to wipe out all traces of apartheid and help bring peace and stability to South Africa. He helped boost the economy, and in 1996 he signed into law the new South African Constitution. This new constitution established a strong central government based on majority rule and guaranteed rights of minorities and freedom of expression. He retired from politics in 1999 after his term as president, but up until recently, Mandela has been a commanding force in promoting peace and democracy. In conclusion, I hope you see the importance of Nelson Mandela and the change that occurred in South Africa. By speaking about the apartheid system, Nelson Mandela's life, and the changes he helped cause, it is my goal that you learn something new and are now more globally aware about this situation. Although you may not agree with all that he did, you have to at least respect the man for standing firm and never losing hope or sight of his goal. I'm going to close with another quote from Mandela that sums up what kind of man he was. I learned that courage was not the absence of fear, but the triumph over it. The brave man is not he who does not feel afraid, but he who conquers that fear. Thank you.